So basically what this training is going to go over is just our Maryland templates and also just some plotting uh, ways to plot, because I know there's been some issues on plotting. And I know there's some new plotters that are being installed to different offices. So I just kind of want to breeze over that a little bit. So we're just going to talk a little bit about the location of templates. How do we sync the Maryland templates? And that's specifically on the federal system. And then I'll go over a little bit on the state side of things on what state users should be using. Then we'll have a little quick break. Then I'm going to go over the drawing properties, working with the blocks within the templates, downloading the CTB file, which is a file that basically, lets you know the line weights and colors and things of that nature when you go to plot and publish your drawings. And then using the sheet set manager, and then we'll just have questions and answers at the end. And feel free throughout the presentation, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to speak up on any topic that that we're going over. So the topics covered today are going to be the Maryland templates and the plotting. Kind of went over this a little bit on the engineering workshop that we had, but just some few things. Where do I find them? There's two places where you can find them: on the Maryland Sharepoint website and the Maryland Nrcs website. So we'll just go there now. So if you go in on the Sharepoint, and hopefully everybody has access to Sharepoint. If you are new and you don't have access, you will have to send an email to Arana Mormon. And I would just CC Jaquay on that because he's part of that group too. But Arana, I think, has the privileges to give people access to the SharePoint site. So if you are new, you will have to ask for permissions on that. So you'll notice this is just under Maryland's NRCS SharePoint site. And you'll notice under the Civil 3D templates, that's just a folder that I'm in. You'll notice that there's multiple folders within that SharePoint site here. Just a couple items to go over. This is the main folder that you're in, that's in bold, and then these are the names of the different folders within there. And you'll notice the first one will have the templates, and then as you go down through here, you'll see them labeled all the way from, it's every 100 or 200. So the first are the templates, and then 100 to 200 are some details, and then 200 to 300 some more details. So it goes all the way to 1200 for these different details that we've created throughout the years. I'm sure people are familiar with SharePoint. I'm not going to go over much in SharePoint, but if you do have questions, you can most certainly give me a shout. But the actions on these, basically what you can do on this, you can alert your, set up an alert for this specific folder. So if anything was changed, it can send you an email. So if you hit the alert me, you can set that up based off of, what you select the delivery method, when it changes, when you want it to send you an alert. So you do have options in that matter. Now, people that are synced to this won't have to worry about that, making alerts or anything. But, one thing with the alerts that I will say, if you're doing, if you upload a project and you want to create an alert for that specific folder that you uploaded for review, you can do this the same way by setting an alert on that specific design that you put on SharePoint, that you can, set an alert for that. So if somebody checks it out and checks it back in, it'll automatically alert you, and then you won't have to worry about, figuring out, well, did the person review it yet, or where it's at in the review process, you'll get an alert. So it's a nice feature. So this is just Sharepoint. This is a place where you can find a template. So if you click on that folder, you'll notice in that folder, these are all the different templates that we have, and you'll notice the underscores on all these file names. And the reason being is that it doesn't like to have spaces within Sharepoint, so there's underscores in lieu of that. So when you bring in any of these drawings, they're going to have that underscore in the name. And I'll go over this, later on when we go to plot, but you have to make sure that you take that underscore out and put a space in there. Otherwise, it's not going to plot to scale correctly for you. But this just gives you the information. This has PDFs and also DWGs. So you can, again, select on any one of these files and do the same thing. You can do alert. You can download it. You can copy a link. You can share it, preview it. There's a lot of different options that you can do within Sharepoint. But this is kind of where everything is housed within the system. So any changes that are taking place or anything like that are done in this Sharepoint website. This is the most up-to-date, and also I'm going to show you for state users what the most up-to-date location is for state users and where to get them. So this is just the Sharepoint location and where to get them for the federal users. And then for state users or users that are not on the website, www.marylandcadusers.com. And if you select the Maryland Nrcs in the first heading here, that should take you directly to the same site that I was just going at, fumbling around to get to. So it's the same exact link. So anybody that is not on the federal program, this is where you will come to get the most up-to-date templates. And everyone that's off the federal system, you'll have to go in here, select that folder, and then this is set up a little bit differently, but it's the same concept, has all the different templates in here, and you have the two options of a DWG and a PDF that you could download. But for a user, when you're going to start a project, all you're going to do is select the DWG, and then what it's going to ask you is, what do you want to do with it? You can save it as, you can open it. If you open it, it's going to go right into your open up Civil 3D, or you can save it as, into your working folder and then rename it and then start your drawing that way. However you want to do it, is up to you, but just make sure you're coming to this website to get that template. There's been cases where people in the federal system have taken a USB stick, copied the templates that, were on Sharepoint. So for example, if they took, all the DWGs that were on here, put them on a USB, gave it to the state user, and say a month from now, I updated a couple templates in here, and that person, picks one of those updated templates to start a drawing, but they're on the website, or not on the website, they took it from the USB that, someone had given to them, then they might be using an older version of that template, if that makes any sense. So I guess my main point for anybody that is not on the system, just make sure that you go to the Maryland engineering website for that. And like I said, if you just go to our www.marylandcadusers.com, the quickest way to go there, just bookmark that and just hit the Maryland NRCS, and then it'll take you right there. It's as simple as that. So why do we have them? Templates are used to help keep all design formats similar throughout the state. So we were just kind of streamlined everything. And it's a good starting point for a lot of our designs. I know when I first started, I struggled on, what actually has to be included in a design to get it approved. So templates are kind of a starting, source, if you will. It's not the end all of the design. You as a designer will have to modify that specific template based on your specific needs of that drawing. And don't feel that, every block within that template is going to be used for your specific drawing. You might have to remove some, you might have to add some, you might have to even modify some to, accommodate for your specific drawing. Like I said, it's a starting point for folks to get started with the actual drawing itself. And again, how do you use them? You're required to put in the information into the template to make it site specific. Like I explained, we have drawing properties that I'll go over, and all the different blocks that are within the templates are attributed. So when these blocks were made, they were made to allow users to double click on those and put the information in that's required within that block or cut sheet, whatever you want to call it. Again, where do you find them on the federal system? It's a Sharepoint site, and then outside the federal system, it's just the Maryland Nrcs website under engineering. So that's the two places that the templates will be updated on a regular basis. The next topic that we're going to go over is syncing of those. I guess everyone in this group, is there anyone that hasn't had a chance to sync the templates on the federal system at least? Okay. I'm going to assume that everybody has had a chance to sync the templates, but I'm going to just kind of quick go over how you sync on the federal system for folks real quick. There is a separate training specifically for syncing the templates. And I just saw in the chat from someone, talking about MDA users on the system users, and I used to place those templates on the SRC engineering, and I do need to remove those because that was a place that I was actually putting them on, but it became too much of a process for me that, once I updated templates, and I'd have to put them on the state system, and it's just easier having these two locations, or I say one location for outside users, to be on the website. So anyone outside of the federal system, just go to the Maryland Nrcs website, and that's where you're going to go ahead and do your pull your templates from, the most up-to-date templates from. So OneDrive, this is just kind of an example that I'm just going to quickly go over, and there are directions, like I said, on the website. Basically, what you have with OneDrive, it's a program that is installed on your computer. You can use it to your advantage. Once you sign up and put in your user information, you'll actually have two different OneDrives. Basically, one that is for on the Fed side of things, and then it's kind of one is made up for your personal OneDrive. So it's almost like we used to use the F drive for all of our documents and saving our documents, but now I use the OneDrive as my personal drive, if you will, because if I have my laptop, I have my link pass into my computer, and if I would go to another computer, put in my link pass, all that stuff that's on OneDrive, my personal OneDrive, I'm able to access on any computer. So it's kind of like your personal portable, device, more or less. And I have a lot of documentations on there, and I don't even know how many gigs I have on there, but it's a good amount, and I've never run out or got any warning message from IT to say, stop putting anything on there. So it's a very good system. I recommend using it. Just throwing it out there for that. So setting up your OneDrive, basically you're just going to, and this is for anybody that is just starting, that's new to the federal system. And sometimes if you do get a new computer, which I'm sure everybody's aware of, that we are updating computers and such, you'll have to go ahead and set up your OneDrive again. So 3 or 4 years down the road, you might have to revisit these directions. But basically, this just goes over the whole process of how to do it. You put in your name, it goes into your C users, your first name, last name, and OneDrive USDA. And then what it's going to ask you, how you want to sync these. And these are just, basically the files, the personal ones, and its attachments and documents. And just go ahead and, check those, because that will be your personal OneDrive. And then you can make folders within those documents and attachments that will be specific to you. And you can actually add them in here too. So you can make whatever folder you want to within that location. And then the next one, you'll go into welcome to the OneDrive, and it'll kind of give you an idea of, in the File Explorer, it gives you your first name, last name, and then there's one that's labeled OneDrive USDA. So here's the OneDrive USDA. That one is specific to what we're going to be downloading from SharePoint. So the USDA after the OneDrive is the one that where all your syncing will be done on the Nrcs SharePoint, the Maryland Nrcs SharePoint site. And then this is your personal one, where you have the attachments and documents. Actually, this isn't your personal. This is the USDA one, so it has attachment and documents. And then this is where you actually will go in and sync these specific folders. So we tell users just to start out with the templates and the support files. So I'll go over that real quick, just to kind of show you a live version of it. So you'll notice on your Civil 3D templates, if you select this specific folder template and you come up here, if you click the sync button, it'll say we're syncing your files. If there's no response, you have to install the latest version. But it will sync everything in that specific file once you hit that sync button. Now, if you come out to Civil 3D templates and I go ahead and hit sync, it's going to sync Civil 3D templates. So it's going to sync this folder and everything within that folder. So you can do that. That's not a problem, because what happens, and I'll explain on the syncing, that you can put basically copies of that on your computer that are stored on your computer that you can access fairly quick. So that's a nice option where you don't have to actually go into the website. You can just come right to this folder within the OneDrive under USDA, and you'll have all this information right at your fingertips. So you don't actually have to go to this Maryland SharePoint site. So again, in this case, this is just showing that you're syncing all the folders in Civil 3D templates. So this is everything being sunk in the folder. At a minimum, you want to sync the templates. And then it'll give you a warning saying, you're now syncing, or not a warning, I guess a splash window, stating that you are syncing those folders. And it will take some time because there are a lot of folders in there. And then once that is done, or in the process of being, sunk to your computer, under File Explorer, you can browse to your users, your first name, last name, and then you'll see the USDA. And then once that is completed, you'll see the engineering Civil 3D templates, and then it'll list everything that has been, sunk within that folder with a little green check. And then once you select within that, I believe, okay, it doesn't go over that. But once you go into that file, I'll show you on my computer, there's other options where you can download it onto your computer. Doesn't mean that it's not going to update, but it does give you kind of a copy of it, if you will. So just to kind of give you an idea. Can everybody see my screen with the windows? I just want to make sure. Sometimes when I flip screens, it goes crazy. Can everybody see that?
Yep. That's good.
Okay, so you see the OneDrive and the USDA drive. So
Yes.
the OneDrive USDA, so that has the USDA after it. This is basically your personal one. So you can kind of see, this is all my training for CAD and stuff like that, documents for work. So this is basically my personal drive outside of my external hard drive that I have attached to. But just to kind of give you an idea, I mean, I'm up at 56 gigs, 11,000 some files, 1,160 folders within that. So I haven't got any nasty grams from IT, so it works pretty good. And like I said, everything is, within that file that you can just take your link pass and you go to another laptop and it's there. The one we want to concentrate on is the USDA one. So you'll notice I've got, some other things that I sync along with our templates. But the two that you want to concentrate on are the Civil 3D support files and also the Civil 3D templates. That's the two that you can sync to at a minimum. And then once you're in the templates, you'll see the status that it's, when it was created. If you kind of hover over top of it, it should have. All right, so it says when it was modified, 12/15, 8/22. If I double click in here, you'll notice here's all the different drawings that are basically the same thing that you see here when you open up this. It's a mirror image of what you see on your specific computer here. Now, if you right click on any one of these, you'll notice there's a always keep on this device. And if you keep that on there, what that does, it just loads it up a lot faster. It's not required, but if I uncheck that, you'll notice that there's like before it was like a cloud, but now they've changed it and it's just a white, fill with a green check that shows that it's offline. You can still get it, but it's offline, so you have to actually download it. But if I were to say always keep on this device, you'll notice it becomes a green check stating that it is on your device. So when you select that, so just for an example, if I double click this specific one, you see how fast it opens up compared to if I were to uncheck this, always complete this, you'll notice there's a download. Well, it probably didn't because it's probably cached, but what it'll do, it'll download that specific file instead of just opening it up directly. So it's up to you as far as, how you want to manage that. But it's just more or less how fast that's going to open up for you. Any questions on syncing? At least on the federal side of things. The one thing I will recommend is, as a minimum, just putting in the support files and also the templates. That's the two crucial ones. People that are doing a lot of the engineering review, that's another one that you can sync. So you'll notice on this, here's all the folks that when we go and put up drawings and things like that. For example, if I needed to upload something to whatever, or if I want a quick view of what's out there on some of these and I need to upload something, you can do it basically through Windows Explorer this way too. It's another option. It's a little bit quicker, but I don't use it this way. I basically, how I use it is going through the process that's on our website or Nrcs website that engineering has put together of, adding your files basically through the SharePoint site and the version history and things like that. This I keep on here just for a quick something that I can just go right in here and say, oh, okay, well, I did put that on, and I can look at the date when I put that on. It's just a quick reference. Another one that I have, operation and maintenance plans. Now that's now going to change because we are in the process of updating our standards. So with all the new standards that are going to be updated on eFOTOG, they're going to have their own separate O&M plans. So this, I would imagine, is going to be discontinued, or we might be adding those operation and maintenance plans out of the standards and placing them into this. So at least they're the most up-to-date ones. So that's eventually going to change, and I'm sure there'll probably be some type of directive or memo coming out regarding that. Let's see. And then our design guides, it's just another one that, I can go ahead and click in, and my design guides at my fingertips on the federal system. So you can kind of see the benefits of syncing, certain folders within SharePoint. And, as a user, use that to your advantage, that, it's a quick place to find, those folders. Any questions on the syncing portion on the federal system, or any suggestions? Does anybody have any suggestions that they might do something different? Because I'm always up for some new quick things, or anything that I might miss. I'm not no SharePoint expert by any means, and don't try to be one. This is just something that I've learned over the years, and that has helped me streamline what I do. And but if there's something that you feel that is a better process or a better way of doing things, most certainly, now's the time to speak up and let me know. Don't be shy. I always like criticism. Man, this is just a happy-go-lucky group this morning. Shoo. All right. So we went over the area on the SharePoint site. Now for the, just to go back with the outside the federal network, again, just to kind of go over this, you can go to the Maryland CAD web user site, just click the Maryland Nrcs tab. It's going to take you directly to the engineering site. So anytime I do any updates, on our templates, the process is that, I will email Arana, and she will email who needs to be uploading these to the website. It might not happen that same day, but we will try to get to that, within a timely fashion. I would say within 2 weeks, it's probably a good time frame that if I do update something on the federal side of things, and then email them to have them upload these. You'll notice that a lot of these templates now are showing. If I just open this up, excuse me. You'll notice a lot of these templates, you'll see the date 7/1/21 on the revised date. So as far as reviewers, reviewers and users of the templates, try to get the most up-to-date ones. But right now, all the templates that we have, excluding the shallow water area template, have been revised to the 7.121, so they've been updated to the 2020 version of AutoCAD. Now, of course, 2022 is going to be coming out here probably, here in the spring, I would imagine. So again, that's all going to be updated again, and the cycle goes on every two years. So this is just something to keep in mind, that you have the most current template when you're starting out your design. And I know that's been a lot of folks that do the reviews, and this is something that is highly not recommended, is if you have a drawing that you started in a template last year and you're like, oh, well, John Doe's doing the exact same thing I'm getting ready to do now. I'm just going to copy that whole entire drawing, change the site map, throw some elevations on it based off of my survey or LiDAR, and call it a day. Well, I can just tell you that, if you do that, if there was something changed, in here that, might been a standard change that required, I don't know, some type of different, post spacings or something, or, screws or anything like that, you're going to miss out on that. And I'm not saying that, the reviewers are going to catch that, because sometimes, going over all these templates, there's a lot of information, especially on these roof stacking structures, that can be, overlooked. And they are site specific. So as a user, you should be going through each one of these and double checking and making sure, based off of the spreadsheet that was approved by the engineer, make sure that all this matches up to what that spreadsheet says. So if they call for 3-inch power driven nails, you better have that on your design. Maybe they call for 4 on this. Well, you got to make sure that you change that to 4. So there are things in here, hence, user to edit framing detail for project, anything in red, that's, indication to say, hey, you need to, look at this and make changes as needed for your specific design. So on the state side of things, or I say state just because, I know there are some districts out there that have copies of Civil 3D. So anyone outside of the federal system, that's where you're going to be basically getting all of your templates, and that's where you want to start from. Unfortunately, when we go through the process of, syncing with the Maryland templates, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, on CAD, where you go to File, New, and it goes directly to that location of where we showed you where to sync from. State users don't have that option. Anybody outside of the federal system will not have that option to do so. So it's just more steps for people outside the federal system. Any questions on that? All right, so I'm just going to show you basically the Civil 3D world of our templates, and how do you open up a new drawing once you set that up. And I'm going to go over the options of where you should sync those. And there are directions on doing this. It's on our website. And if you go under the customization tab, you'll notice here's all the syncing ones here, and also the setting up the AutoCAD Civil 3D, that's a national, and then the user setup Civil 3D Windows 10. So that is all located, on our Maryland CAD users website. So what I'm going to go through here is basically, this is kind of an offset of what, the Maryland customization, it goes beyond that. And, I did have, some folks ask me, well, I have a state system. Do I need to follow the customization for NRCS? And the question is no. Really, what's happening with the NRCS customization, you're getting an NRCS toolbox, which is shown up here. So this is what you're getting with the NRCS customization. Can you do it? Yes, you can do it. And if it's something that you would want to have done for your specific system, I just have to copy down the support files and put them in a folder. And basically, you could follow these same directions for, getting that NRCS tab and having those functions. So if that's something that you'd like to do, I believe, I thought I had put that on our, so I have the Civil 3D 2018 on there. So that's something that I'll have to update. I'm going to make a note of that now. So if you're a state user, what you need to do is, that's on our Sharepoint site, but this is what I would have to email to you, and it's a big file. So if you have somebody that's in the federal system, that's in your office, if you could just ask them to take that support NRCS folder and drop that onto a stick, and what you're going to do is you're just going to put it in this location under program data, Autodesk Civil 3D 2020 support NRCS. So that's where you're going to put that support NRCS folder. And like I said, I'm going to put the ARG file for 2020 in there. And then that way it'll be for the 2020 version. So I'll update that in SharePoint for everybody. And then that way, if the state users want to use that NRCS tab, they can. Any state users on here now that have used that or see the need of having that, I guess, is my one question. Is that something that you guys would want to have available to you guys?
Hey, Dan, this is Sam.
Yes.
I would recommend it because there's a lot of instances where the points to profile comes in very handy.
Okay.
Unless there's another technique you can use to do that. But I've shown other technicians, if they're out there doing a level survey,
Yep.
or level as built, it does come in handy. I don't know if
absolutely.
access for that particular function.
No, absolutely. And that's a good point, because I do know that, if you do want to do like a quick, self-level and level survey, or, some people still using a laser level, and you just want to do a quick, profile of a stream crossing or something like that, that points to profile, like Sam explained, is, basically it puts the points there, and you can just convert that right into a profile instead of actually creating an entire surface. So if that's something that, you guys feel you would use, then I'll go ahead and update that ARG file to 2020, and, have someone in your that are on the federal side to grab that folder and just place it in the location shown on once I go through this. So it's basically here is where you would be putting it. Again, so you would have to create a program data. I think there might be a program data file on the state side of things. I think that's a default, but if it's not, you can create that. But I'm almost positive there's a program data. You'll just have to create this support NRCS folder, or not create it. You're just going to drop it into this Civil 3D 2020 support NRCS. And then you would continue to follow these steps starting out with metric and then going into imperial, because what you're doing in this process by starting in metric, all you're doing is creating a new profile in Civil 3D. You don't want to overwrite the original Civil 3D imperial. So that's a key. So I've had people, ask me, well, do we still have to, open up in metric and then, do the imperial on the state side of things? The answer to that is no. You can just go ahead and open up imperial. Now, keep in mind, if you don't have any templates and you're not syncing them, it's going to be the out-of-box AutoCAD. So if you were to bring in points and things like that, it might only bring in the point elevation, or it might only bring in the point, style. It might not bring in the elevation description, things like that are already set up as a point style within our templates. So in order to see all that outside of the federal system, you'll have to open up a template in order to have those styles shown. So just keep that in mind. Anything outside of that, if you're using an out of the box system, those settings and styles have not been set up, for that. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So basically, what you can do as far as the Civil 3D, it's like I said, going through the user setup on the Civil 3D 2020, it's the same process as 2018. Trimble Link is something that they do out west. I know there is, I think Virginia uses it. I mean, maybe Jersey might use it. But that's something that I've never used. Another one is importing the Nrcs Waterway subassemblies. I would just go ahead and do it. Add the subassemblies. Not to say that you're going to use them, but eventually, once you start using Civil 3D, you start, creating waterways and things like that. You might see that this might be a tool palette that you might want to use. And there will be a training on this eventually, trying to get through all the basics first before I overwhelm everyone with, corridors and subassemblies and assemblies. But for now, if you don't get to it, you don't put it in there, it's not a huge deal. We can always come back and add that. Then you exit and then you restart. And then this is just, again, I do go over customizing workspace menus and toolbars. There's a whole separate training on that on our CAD users website. The biggest thing that I will say, as far as the references of custom options, and this can go with both the state side and also the federal side, but mainly it's for the federal side. Customization files, this is where your main customization file is, and that's the one that we're talking about with the NRCS, where it's shown. Enterprise customization file, this is where it's shown, and that's all in the support file. So you will have that in that support file. Just make sure that it's pointed to this specific location. On the state side, you might have to look for that. The template file location, this is something that we'll go over now, but basically on the federal side, you can do this. Unfortunately, on any of the template settings or template palettes or any of the file locations, unfortunately, outside of the federal system, you're not able to do that. And then just one quick other item that I'd like to go over. A lot of folks say, oh, my computer's not working, or CAD's, crashing or whatever. The easiest way to do, instead of, contacting IT and say, oh, I need to have it reinstalled because it keeps crashing. The first thing to do is just reset, your user profile. And basically what you do there, if you go into Autodesk, Civil 3D, reset settings to default. And once you reset settings to default, basically what it does, it takes everything that you've done on the customization that, we just went through and starts back out from, out of the box, if you will, that you'll have to go through the steps of, then going through customizing back to where it was. But if you're having a lot of problems with Civil 3D and it's just crashing, things aren't working correctly, my first suggestion is just go ahead, reset the settings to default and try to run it that way before bothering IT and trying to put a ticket in and trying to get them to reinstall it. Because it does take some time to reinstall it. But that's kind of the go-to, if you will. I did see a message in the chat. I have the Civil 3D set up for 2018, but I don't have it for 2020. Where do I find that document? So that should be, I believe, that's the user setup here. And this is 2020, and I believe I got that from customization here. So just a PDF, and I think that's trying to open that up, but it should be the 2020. So if you go under the Maryland CAD users website, user setup Civil 3D 20, it should be under there. A lot of our documents are located in that Maryland CAD users website. So if you don't find it in there, most certainly, give me a shout, and I try to keep everything in there. It's a good library of stuff that I try to keep ongoing. And we do have a YouTube channel too that has just all the videos, but the Maryland CAD users website is kind of your go-to site where, everything is housed in there. So even the webinar, so the webinar that was done last December 1st, regarding the text dimensioning multi-leaders, that was the webinar that was created. And I went ahead and just put that video again on our Maryland CAD users website, and it's just under webinars. So as I continue to do these on line webinars, I'll continue to create that library of stuff that people can refer back to. And, at least that way, any of the new folks, they can come back and, reference this material. All right, go ahead and get started back up here. I was just going through and double checking, making sure that now if you go into the support NRCS, it'll have the 2020 NRCS ARG file. So like I stated before, for folks that are not on the federal system and have federal folks in the office, just ask the federal employee to download that support file. So that support NRCS file, and then where you're going to place it will be it's going to be under the C program data Autodesk Civil 3D 2020, and then just drop it into this folder to support NRCS, and then that way you'll be able to have that NRCS tab shown up here with the points to profile, because it sounds like a lot of folks use that. So I don't want to not have them have access to that if it's available. So is there any other questions up to this point before we move forward? I did go ahead and forward all the presentations that I have in the original email for the training. I tried dropping them in here, but for whatever reason, it wouldn't allow me to drop them into the actual training meeting. For I don't know why, but it didn't. So if you don't get it, let me know. I can most certainly send it back out to you. But they are not the actual slides themselves, but the other, like the sheet manager that is on our our website, Maryland CAD users website. So that is available there. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to move forward with the Maryland templates themselves and just kind of going over, what is involved in the templates, what are in our templates. And, basically, if you were to, open up a template, let me see where we're at in our slides here. Okay. So the Maryland templates. So a couple things with the federal system, going back to syncing, which I forgot to explain to you on the federal side of things. The one thing you do want to do on the syncing, and I believe it does talk about the Maryland customization PDF, but on a syncing. So I just want to go over that real quick. On the federal side of things, if you right click on your screen, you can type in options. You can right click on there, click options, and it's going to bring up, I'm sure everybody's familiar with this, but what you want to concentrate on are the files. And you go down to template settings, drawing template file location. So you'll notice here, it's under C, users, my name, USDA, engineering, civil 3D, and the templates. So it's going to the standard templates. So anytime I go in there to start a new drawing, I'll show you the process of doing that and what it does. The other one that you want to concentrate on having, sync in the template settings is a default template file location for QNew. What is QNew? That's basically when you open up your drawing, that's what you're looking at. So when you saw, what you're looking at behind the screen here, that is QNew. So it's just showing the Civil 3D 034 0034 drawing. That's the blank drawing, if you will. So that's for QNew. So if you were not to set up a QNew and this was defaulted to, the out of box, you might not have, you won't have all the styles that are set up in our template. So I get a lot of people that, I open up, just open up Civil 3D and I try to bring in, a map and I want to see a map. Well, with that, none of the projection has been set on the out of box version. So the reason why you see it in our templates is because that projection has been set up. So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind, that you having that QNew set up is very important if you were just want to open up a drawing just to look at a map real quick, or view that map real quick. So just keep that in mind. And again, for QNew, you're just going to go actually into that standard template folder location and then select the Civil 3D blank -20 DWT. I had the -18 in there also just because other folks were using 18 and they weren't able to open up the 20 DWT. I'm hoping, here shortly. I know not everybody has been converted over 20 yet. I know that, but we should be very close to having everybody, using 2020. But that's the one that you want to, specify as far as where you want to open that up at. So if I close this drawing, for example, and if I just hit the new button, this is the QNew. You'll notice that this is the QNew. This is the 034 0034, and that's where you start. So if you go into model, you'll notice a map will pop up. And if you don't see a map, the first thing you should say to yourself, am I using a template? Because if you don't see a map, either one, you're not using a template, or two, you're not signed into the Maryland Autodesk 360. I think they renamed it something else. But you should be logged into that. And the first time you log in, it's going to say, do you want to, I think the default says, do you want to apply the map online always or something like that? Just make sure you hit the check mark yes. If you hit no, then it's a process that you have to go back. You actually have to go to the AutoCAD 360 website, log out, log in. So there is a process if you do select no on that. But that's one good indication that you are in a template, that you can actually see this map. So the next question is, how do I open up a template? Once you sync everything, as I shown you in the options, if you go to new, just drop down to new drawing. It's going to bring up your window of where you set that template based off of your options. So it's saying users, Dan Polite, USDA, engineering, templates, your standard templates. So now you can select any one of these. Now I will say, if you go in here and you have DWT selected, which sometimes when you first get this installed, the default file type will be DWT. So you'll look in here and you're like, well, all I see is DWTs. There's no templates in here. Just make sure the file type you're looking for is a DWG. So if we wanted to open, a specific one, go ahead and click open, and it'll open up that DWG. And now you can go ahead, if you were to go ahead and hit save, the default, when you go to hit save, it should say save drawing as, and then you save it to whatever you want. So that's how you get started with an actual template. Does everybody understand that? And that's on the federal side of things again. On the state side, you just have to, go to the website, grab that template, and start with that template from the website. And it's just a little less steps, on the federal side of things. Plus, you don't have to worry about going out and, to the website to get the most up to date. These are updated on the federal website, instantly. So, excuse me, you won't even see that they've been updated unless you were to look at the versions. So the first thing, with the templates is drawing properties. Just a funny story, when I first started doing a lot of this, CAD stuff, we originally had our templates and we had to write all this stuff out, each individual page, and we copy the whole, border, and, it was just a mess. And I'm like, there's got to be a simpler way of doing this. And, I finally found out a way of doing it, and, using fields, doing some research and doing that. So, we've come a long way in this, and, older folks that have been here that, have worked on this stuff can appreciate when we do this now. It's it's automated. Just the find command that I went over in the last, webinar training, just say find landowner and replace it with something. I mean, that's such a useful function that, you just, you wouldn't even think of. Instead of trying to go through the entire drawing and do things. The spell command is another one. There's so many different things within Civil 3D that are just out there that even myself learn every single day, that, there's something, out there that's user friendly, and it makes life a lot easier. So with that being said, we came up with the drawing utilities and the drawing properties, and we made everything in the fields that could be used within our templates. So if you look in the drawing properties, you'll notice that there's, I don't know, maybe about 15 or so custom properties that we made up. And these are things that you as the designer user need to put in the drawing, and it will change those specific properties in the template that you're in to that specific whatever you put in that value. I will say one thing that I do notice, and this is something you probably would want to write down or, take note on. If you don't have somebody checking it, and you don't have somebody approving it, and you're creating a PDF, if you want that dotted line to go away, all you have to do is put a space in that, and then when it plots it out, that dotted line will be away. So, if you create a PDF and it doesn't have a checker, or it doesn't have, somebody, needs to approve it, and you've plotted out that PDF and someone needs to approve it, instead of having that dotted line behind their signature, which I've seen, to get rid of that, just put a space in there and hit enter, and then that space is gone. I've tried to do it with just nothing in there, and I haven't found a solution since I looked into it, and maybe I can try to reevaluate it again. But when I created these fields, you had to put some type of value in there in order to, have it work. It could be a pound sign, it could be, the dashes or whatever, but something had to be in there. So the title blocks themselves. So this is basically where all that information with the drawing properties come in. And as explained in the previous training, anything that has that gray background to it is considered a field. If you go in there and double click that, can you change that? Absolutely, you can change that to whatever you want. Just keep in mind that if you go back in the drawing properties and you change that in drawing properties, this field has now become just a multi-line text, and that it is not correlated with your drawing properties. So just keep that in mind when if you have to change it to something specific. There's attributed blocks that I've talked about a little bit within the actual drawing itself, and we'll get into that after I go over an example with going through the drawing properties real quick.
Hey, Dan, this is Sam again. Can we go back to the title sheet again?
Yes. This here?
Yeah, my question is, where you have the hashtags?
Yes.
Is there any way you can create another field that you can, we are now required to title each sheet per the legend. So if you're on the site plan page, we have to change that to site plan instead of what the practice is.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we will be going over that. So what this is here, the hashtags, pound signs for us older folks, that's what this is referring to. So once we create a sheet title name, that is what this will put in there.
Can you add other fields for, like sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4 in your utilities function, that you can just go ahead and enter that stuff in there to reflect what's on the legend? Or are we still kind of stuck with going to each individual page, double clicking on it and making it reflect the legend?
It'll do it automatically. So, and I'll go through that. If I got enough time towards the end, I'll go through that. But that's what the sheet set manager does, and that was one of Jaquay's requests, that he wanted, an actual name for each individual page, and it was, discussed that let's put it right underneath the landowner name, because originally we just had the practice code under there in the practice, but now we're going to have an actual legend that will show in the front. And then, this would be called index. The next one might be, sheet 2, profiles, cross section. So whatever's in that title block is going to reflect on those pound signs on each sheet. So I'll go over
you're
that.
ahead of me. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So let's go back to Civil 3D real quick. And if you click on these, and if you go to properties, let's see. It's not in there. If you go into your fields, drawing utilities, drawing properties. So that was one that was added. So that's actually that's like out of the box field that I added to that. So it's not like a custom property that's added in here. So a custom property is based off of these specific templates that we've created. Those hashtags, pounds, you can select a field and it'll, you could select from a multiple list of things. So if I were to type in mtext, for example, and if I select that, and then I can go in here to field, here's all the different field categories. You can do it by the document. So with that name that's in there, the project site name, that's basically, I believe, let me see. Might not be that. So I believe this one here is your page setup name, and that's what the hashtag refers to. So whatever your page setup name is, or no, I'm sorry, it's a sheet set. And that's the preview of it. And then what it does, it takes whatever your current sheet set name is, current sheet title, that's what it is. It will add that to this. So once we create that sheet list table, it'll add that specific title into each individual sheet. So I'll go over that. It's more towards the end, but I'll go over it then. But I will show you that, Sam.
Thank you.
Of course. So back into the drawing property utilities under drawing properties. Again, designed by, you can put your name. Drawn by, checked by, approved by, date. And I'll leave this one as is. Select your county. Drawing number, just leave that as a default. So that drawing number refers to the template. So, the reviewer can then look and say, oh, well, they started this drawing with, template number 8. So that's the waste storage structure for circular tanks. So just leave that one alone. Total number of sheets, so you can put the total number in there. The one thing you will have to do, you will have to, if you did a total of 5 for this, example, and I'll show you what I mean. We'll put 5 in there, and then you'll have to do something specific to that. Project site name. And you can see that I just put lowercase in there, but the default, when it comes in, it'll be all uppercase. Main practice. That's just the main practice that you're talking about. If you're doing a watering facility, fencing, livestock pipeline. Would you call fencing your main practice? Would you call the pipeline main practice? Probably not. You'll probably call watering facility as your main practice. So that's always been, a question that, what do I put in here? Whatever that main practice is, you can have multiple ones underneath. When we first started doing these templates, we actually listed all the practices that were being reported on there. And now we have, these big roof HUA areas, and you can just imagine that, that list got really long really fast. So now we just recommend putting the main one in there. And if there's two, you could put two in there. But for the most part, if it's a waste storage structure, you could put, waste storage structure and 561 heavy use area protection if you wanted to. Track number, you can enter that in there. Job class, this is important because, now that, everything is being tracked under job class, for the job approval authority, and also on the NRCS tracking, there's another column on our NRCS tracking that has job class there. So this is a good, reminder that, you have to put the job class on there, and then you can double check that. And I always use the Roman numerals for the job classes. I don't know if anybody has a different way of doing it, but I've just always been accustomed to that. The city is basically the city of where the project's being built in. It's not where your office is. And then the phone number, you can just type in your phone number. So what that does, anything that has the name designed by will have a value placed in it as DP, so on and so forth as you go down through here. So if you click OK, you'll notice nothing happens. Regen. And now you'll notice anything that had a name, John Doe, anything that had a, the county goes to Cecil, phone number, the dates, name. And again, I didn't put a space in there just for that reason. So now if I put a space in there, if I go under my drawing utilities, put a space, click OK, regen, you'll see that go away. So it just gives you a nice clean look when, the approver will go to, do their PDF signature, that they have, that entire space to sign that, compared to, having the dotted lines underneath. As far as the pages, so now we're at 1 of 5, and say, we're at 6 pages. This is saying 6 of 5. So we're at 5 of 5. Well, maybe we're not using this last page, or maybe we're swapping them out, but you have to manually go in and change the first page. So if we were using this one, you just go ahead and click OK. So just keep that in mind too, that, if it's a total of 5 pages and you're removing one, just make sure that these page numbers, add up to what you're actually looking at. So now we went over all the title blocks, the drawing properties. The next thing that's located in the templates are the attributed blocks. So blocks that are attributed is basically blocks that you can add specifics, information to your design. You can tell they're attributed because they're in red, noting that, prompting you as the designer user that you can click on the block and edit it. So just keep that in mind, that, if you see the red, you can do it. So in this case, we have a block, and you'll see inside a couple ways of doing it. You can type in, I think it's ADDT edit. I'll go through it. I think it's ADD edit in the command line, or you can double click it. And basically what it's showing you in the attribute in this tab, it's saying what the block name is. Now in the past, you'll notice that these were these weird numbers. So I've updated a lot of our templates to show an actual block name. So it says Ag Chem Sump Detail. And these tags are something that was created within the block that tags, what that actual attribute is associated with. So in this case, this tag says height, so enter depth of sump. So it's going to be in here. Width, enter inside width of sump. So it's going to be within here. Outside width, so it's going to be here. And then the enter concrete floor thickness, which is here. So this is the information that's available that you can enter into that specific block. You can go into text options if you want to make them bigger, if you want to make them red, blue, whatever you want. You have access to do that. Same with the properties. You can change properties to them to a different height and things like that. So we'll go through that process. So once it's all said and done, you'll notice that, after I entered that information into the block, you'll see that it put those specific values into the specific location that was, asked for back here. So we had 4 different, prompts for the attributes. And then we have 4 different outputs that were entered in here. Now, the majority of the blocks that are done, and I've tried to update them all this way, all of this information you can move. So in other words, it'll have a grip on it, so you can slide it up and down. So, if it wasn't directly centered and, you don't like that, you can slide it up and down. When I first started doing these attributed blocks, they were locked, and, people would put in, I don't know, something larger than actually could fit on the line. So now they're a little bit more editable, if you will, for the users. And also the blocks themselves, like I said, you can, go in there and change those, and we'll go over that. Okay, so as you can see, if you hover over something and it highlights the entire thing, it's a block. And you'll notice that there's these different grips that are shown here. And that kind of gives you an indication too that this has some attributes associated with it, compared to this block that only has 1 grip associated with it. So there's no attributes, and that's why there's no red text also. Not to say that I didn't miss some red text on some of them, but one good indication is just, having 1 grip on there. So in this one, you see multiple grips. This one, you see 1 grip. You can select that. You can go to your properties tab, and it'll tell you, what is it? Circular tank, 8 foot deep, 75 foot diameter. You can go in here and put your attributes in here. So if my diameter is 120, my steel was, I don't know, number 5, rebar at 12-inch spacing. So you'll see that come up here. It's saying base in inches. So 6 inches. And what type of material? 3/4 inch clean stone. So now you'll notice everything has been placed in there. And that's just going through properties. So that's one way of doing it. Inside diameter, if I need to change that, I can double click again in the block, and I can type in feet. If I needed to change this to number 4 bar, I can do that. Text options. So this is basically how it was developed. The text style is details. That's a 0.10 text height. That's a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch in height. This is a justification, the rotation, if there was an oblique angle or anything like that. And then you can go to properties. Now, if I wanted to go and hit red, I can highlight that. Actually, we can't do that. I'm sorry. You actually have to be in block editor to do that. But I'll show you how you can do that. But this basically just gives you all the information in the block. We're not in edit mode. You have to be in edit mode in order to change the actual properties and options of the text on that. Again, if you click on that block, you can move this. It has a grip. And if you type, or if you hit F8, which is, you know, basically your horizontal, vertical, left and right, that gives you your ortho. I always hit F8, so I want it to go straight across. I don't want to kind of drag it down around somewhere else. If I didn't have F8 selected, it wouldn't go horizontal on me, so I can put it wherever I want. I always like to do F8. So if I needed to move it over a little bit, I could. And the same goes with anything that has those grips on it. If I wanted to move it over, you know, more center, you could do that. The next one is DDATTE. All right. Define attribute edit is what it stands for. So if you select it, again, this is just another way of, you know, there's so many ways in CAD that you can do this. Whatever works for you, you know, I'm just showing you all the different options. Again, you know, it gives you the, you know, what the actual parameter is, what it's asking for. You know, if you can't see it, you can make it wider, you know, to see everything. But again, it just gives you a little less options on this one. But, you know, it's pretty straightforward. Put in what you want. Click OK. The easiest one that I see is just to double click and it brings it up. Or, you know, if you're a fan of having properties open all the time, you can just select it and you can just go down to your block editor and it's all right there. So if I were to select this block, same thing, length, depth, stone, width, same thing. All right, so now somebody says, "Oh, well, you know, I want to change something in here." So this footer's not 12 inches. Now, don't go and change these because these are actually, you know, standards that we don't want to change. So maybe that's probably not a good one. Let's do floor detail. I double click this again, enter the steel, enter thickness and type of base of material. And I want to change this, I don't know, to 6 inches here because, you know, for whatever reason, it's I don't know, it's for an ag chem and it needs to be 6 inches. And we need to change a concrete PSI to 5,000 PSI. So how do we do that? The easiest way to do it, personally, is if you right click, select on the block and right click, edit block in place. And then it'll, you know, had a reference to it and it's concrete floor, just go ahead and click OK. And you'll notice that everything else is kind of like, you know, grayed out. So this is the only one that I can select. I can't select anything out here. I can't select anything out here. You'll notice that what you see here, these are, what are these called? Anybody remember what these are called? I don't have no candy to throw out or anything, but these are the tags. So this is a tag that's located within that within that block attribute, correct? So if I go in here, here's my tag, steel and base. Enter steel, and this is my prompt for what they are. Again, right click, edit block in place, click OK. If I select on that, if I double click, it's saying tag steel, prompt, enter steel, the default. So that's an attribute that was defined within this block that I created. I need to change this to 5,000. Go ahead and change it to 5,000. Click OK. If I need to change this to 6-inch, go ahead and put 6-inch in there. Click OK. If I, for some reason, wanted to change this to be red, which it won't show up red because based off of our CTB file, if anybody knows, does anybody know what color will show up on red? In our CTB file. Come on, somebody's got to know this. Nobody knows this? You can type it in the chat. You don't even have to speak out.
Is it 255?
Close.
Damn.
240.
Damn, that's what I had in my head, and then I checked it.
So 240 is the color in the CTB file, which I'll go over when we go over this, will print out red. So any as-built color, everything else will print out black, and it'll have a specific line weight. So the 240 is actually, the color that will print out red. Go ahead and click OK. So now we have the red in there. We have the concrete in there. Save changes. So one thing I want to, mention on this, we went in through this by, editing the block in place. That's one way of doing it. And the reason I like to do it this way is because it keeps those attributes associated with this specific block. So if I hit save changes, all references will be saved basically in the drawing. So if there was multiple ones named that exact same one, they would change all of them the same. So keep that in mind too. Now, if I were to go, and this is one thing that I learned real quick, if you go to explode, so I'm sure everybody's heard explode before, and you select that block, you'll notice that now I just have basically, it's just drawing line work. That's all I have. I exploded that specific block, and I can do whatever I want with it. I could still change everything I want to change. The problem with it is that now I have to recreate that block. So in other words, I'm not editing in place. I basically just took all those that block right out of everything, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to everybody when you explode it? Because that's a real important one. So exploding, you're basically taking everything away. So now I do still have attributes associated with it. It doesn't take my attributes away. I can still, have attributes. So now what you need to do as a user, so now say I wanted to change this one to red. I'll select my color, 240, click OK. So now I change that. I've done all my changes for that specific block. But now I have this thing shown steel and base. It doesn't allow me to, do anything. Highlight your entire block that you want to create into a block. So I've highlighted everything. Now keep in mind, when you have multiple attributes. So in this case, we only have 2, which is easy. The order you select those attributes are the order that they come when that's how they're, generated, prompted to be entered in. So if you had steel selected first and then the base would be selected second, that's how they would come up in your selection. And then go ahead and select everything in there. Once you have that all selected, you can right click and hit cut. So I want to cut that thing out. Long as you're in, I always double check, but I always try to like to put my blocks on my blocks layer. Right click. Anybody know what I should put? Should I just put paste or should I put paste as block?
Block.
Block. So if I hit paste as block, you'll notice it gives it a block name, which is, it's just it's a whole new block. And then it does give me the attributes for the steel that I can enter. And you'll notice now if I select on that, again, here's the block name, just like what we created before. So you do have a lot of flexibility in these blocks. So don't feel that you're obligated to, have that specific block and that's it. You can make changes to those blocks, but I just showed you a couple different ways of doing it. My recommendation is just to edit the block in place. It's the easiest way of doing it. You don't have to, worry about cutting and pasting as a block. And the other thing is, if you have this block, it creates a new block name. So technically you would have to go in here, type in rename, find that block you created I forget what one it was, and then you'd have to rename it to whatever you want. Everybody understand a little bit on the blocks? I know it's attributed blocks, use them to your advantage because, you can change whatever you want. Now, the one thing, like if you were to want, okay, so for example, say I do want to change this name, and that's CF3. So if I type in rename, and if I go in here to CF3, and I want to call that, we'll just call it concrete floor. Click OK. So it says duplicate name, duplicate new name specified. So it's saying concrete curb is already in here. Or concrete floor. So in order for me to rename that, I have to rename it something else. So I have to rename it concrete floor 2. Now, if I wanted to bring in this same block that didn't have these changes on it, the easiest way to do it, and I don't know if people are familiar with the Design Center, but the Design Center is something that's used, for, any of your blocks, pages, things like that. It gives you all your different, layers of that specific, any drawing that you have open. So I'm just going to open up a circular one, for example. And if I go into blocks, And it's just loading all the blocks. So there's 117 blocks within this template. And as you can see, there's stuff that I have to clean up in here because some of these blocks that were created way back when we had a CAD committee, different folks, did it different ways. And each time you cut and paste, within a block, it creates a block within a block, if you know what I mean. So if you took, a line and copied and pasted it, within that block, it'll create that block. So that's why there's so many blocks in here. There's not 117 quote unquote blocks within the drawing, but they're within each other. Some of them I've changed and updated, most of them, but there are some out there that, still have blocks associated with them. So you'll notice this is the one, concrete floor. So it's showing me concrete floor. I renamed this to what? Concrete floor 2, correct? Thought I did. CF3. So I didn't. Okay. So let me rename this to concrete floor 2. So just type in rename. And it'll give you the list of the blocks in this current drawing. CF3, concrete floor 2. I don't know why it's not. I don't know why it's doing that. That's interesting. I should have renamed it to concrete floor 2. And even when I double click it, it's saying that it's not, it hasn't changed it. Now, if I go back into here, this is concrete floor. Now, if I go to my current drawing,
Hey, Dan.
yes.
I noticed when you changed the name, it showed the old name Concrete Floor 2.
It did?
So you were showing the old one is Concrete Floor 2 and the new one is Concrete Floor 2.
Okay. All right, let me I should be able to that was the biggest thing you have to worry about is what the actual name of that block is and rename it. So it's CF3. Rename CF3. So that's concrete floor. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to change CF3 to concrete. I won't put a space in there. I'll put concrete floor with no space. Click OK. So now, why it didn't work before, I'm not sure. But now that one is considered concrete floor with no space. You did changes to that. And say that you want to bring in another one, you just have to make sure that they're not the same. So this is concrete floor. I want to bring in the original one. So here's the original one without any of the changes that we made. So side by side, they're exact same block. This one is labeled concrete floor with a space. This is the one that we named concrete floor without a space.
Dan, I just wanted to say that I appreciate that your trainings include glitches.
Oh,
Instead
absolutely. I
of
mean,
just
it's live.
everything going perfectly. And because this is how it works when we're stumbling through it in the field. You know, you thought you did it right and you're not sure what went wrong. So I appreciate this.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's part of it, and that's, you know, like I said, I'm not a master of Civil 3D by any means. So I run into the same problems that every one of you, you know, run into. So don't. That's why I always say, don't feel shy about asking questions, because I run into the same problems just as you saw there, and you just have to work through it sometimes. But anytime that you do have one block that you have to change, and then, you know, I've seen it many a times where somebody says, okay, well, you know, I edited a block, you know, in such and such drawing, and I just want to use it in my, you know, new drawing, and it doesn't change it. It keeps it the same as my, you know, the drawing that I'm working in. And that is the reason being, is because basically you have to rename that block to adjust it. So does everybody understand that? I know there's been some cases on that, and I've gotten some questions about that on the blocks. All right. So that's pretty much blocks. Like I said, if you see a red mark in there, you know, any type of text, you know, that's just an indication that you might want to change something, and it has attributes associated with it. Kind of a little bit out of order here, but what this is talking about the attributed blocks, and then we go into plotting. The first step you need to do in plotting, there's two ways of plotting within your drawing. You know, a lot of these drawings when I first started, you know, with the actual DWG files, it seemed as though when you did that and you sent it to the plotter, it would sit there and just go and go and go, and, you know, wouldn't plot out, or plot out, you know, half the page. So it was come to the realization that, you know, the plotters that we had in the beginning, that they just didn't have the memory in order to complete the functions. Yeah, go figure, right? So now it's just been something that, you know, I've been trying to explain to folks that, you know, it's just easier creating a PDF file and publishing it that way. And then you have that PDF file that you can just, anybody can plot it. So it's not a DWG file that, you know, if you're a planner, or, you know, someone that needs to plot out a specific drawing, or if you need to send it to somebody to plot out, it's a PDF file format that anybody can, you know, print out. So it's just easier for folks, I guess, is the main thing. And it's easier for us to publish it that way, actually. So there's a couple different ways. There's the publish command that I'll go over, and then also the sheet set command that we'll go over. But the first step is having that Nrcs black, white, gray CTB file, you know, placed in the correct location, so you can, you know, reference that CTB file to your plotting, so it plots out based off of, you know, what our line weights are and our colors and things like that. So that's found on the Maryland Sharepoint site or the Maryland Nrcs website to download. So again, if you go to the Maryland Nrcs website, that's, you know, for folks that don't have access to it, unless it's under miscellaneous. Okay, so it's under miscellaneous. It's this Maryland Nrcs black, white plot style. It says DWG, but it really isn't. It's an actual plot style. So that's where you would find that plot style outside of, you know, the Sharepoint site. So it's under miscellaneous drawings and items. For folks that are on the Sharepoint site, oh, I hit the wrong button here. On the Sharepoint site, it's located. See, Charlene, it happens all the time.
So we gotta go to the Rockies to find it.
Right. That's it. So now in the SharePoint site, under support files, you'll notice the NRCS black-white CTB file that's located here. So that's where we want to go. And as far as that CTB file is set up, so the location and where you actually have to put this, once you download it from either the website or from SharePoint, you have to go into options and then go to your plot style. Well, first off, you don't do this. You actually have to put it in this file first. So before you go into your options, you need to go into users, your name, app data, roaming, Autodesk, Civil 3D 2020, engineering, plotters, plot styles. I know that's a lot in one mouthful, but if you don't know where to look, if you go into right click page setup manager, you go to modify, and you go to this little guy here that says edit, and you go to general. This is where it's actually located at. So, you know, if you're not sure where it's located, go to your plot style editor, and under the general tab, this is the path of where that CTB is located. So you're going to basically plot that in, or put that into that folder. And you'll notice that this says description, all colors use black color and grays use their own color, 8, 9, and 250 through 255. Exception is color 240, which uses red for plotting as-builts. So this kind of gives you, you know, you can go through tables. You can actually export this as a PDF file, or not a PDF, but an Excel file, I think, that shows you everything. But as you go through all these different colors, you know, you'll see there's some screening associated with some of them. Maybe not. I thought we used some screening on them, but maybe not. But some of them, you know, most of them are, you know, black. Line weights or might be a little bit different. But most of them are just black. But again, when you go into the CTB file, again, you can go each individual one here, you know, and it'll show you, okay, color 7, grayscale off. Color 8, grayscale on. You know, color 10, it's black, grayscale's off. So that's just a CTB file. So that was actually generated through NRCS. They created that CTB file. The only thing that we changed on it, I believe, was the 240 adding to the as-builts. I think they had a different color, and that color just didn't plot out that good. So Jacob and I decided to change it. So again, if you don't see this, let me see. Well, actually, I think it does come up like this all the time. There used to be a button that, you know, it didn't show this half, so you only saw this. But I think now they changed that where this whole page setup is shown. And another thing you want to keep in mind, some people say, oh, well, all my, you know, plot style or all my pages are shown in pink and purple and everything else. If you uncheck that, click OK, close. And then you'll notice on anything in here, well, actually, it's just that sheet, but you'll notice on this one because it has different colors on it. If I uncheck this, click OK. So some people will say, oh, well, why does it look like this? And all it is just displaying your plot style. And the reason we defaulted that to our templates to display the plot style, it's just showing you basically how it's going to be plotted. So you have, you know, there's no guesswork in it. So what you see is what you get, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. So once you have your CTB file loaded, you know, in your options, you load that into your options. Well, I can show you. It's basically the same place, but you browse to that folder. You browse to that folder and you load it. And then again, like I said, we went through the page setup manager. You got to make sure that you modify it and modify that to NRCS black and white. I know I went over, you know, a couple things regarding the plotting with some folks before, and these are the 6 main things to look at when you go to plot. So the plot area. So the default is set up as extents. There's different options. There's windows. There's display. Does anybody know if? But what does it do by selecting extents? Anybody have any idea why we chose extents compared to display or layout or anything like that? So one thing, when we choose extents, when we go to plot, if you open up Civil 3D and I don't know, you have, you know, some things out here in paper space that are sitting out here. Page setup manager, you know, extents. Okay. I'm going to make it a DWG to PDF. And if I go to preview, what it does, it gives me that page size, but it's saying, hey, there's something over here in the extents that I'm trying to print in that area. So do we want to do that? No. So extents is kind of, I guess, a way, if you will, to, you know, try to eliminate, you know, having anything out in this, you know, wasted paper space. If you double click your mouse wheel in the middle, it'll zoom extents, and, you know, it'll zoom what actually should be plotted. This is your outside. So if I were to type in, well, actually, if I type in distance, well, actually on mine, it's a little bit different because, and I believe in my options on paper space, I don't have it shown. I have those unchecked. So I just have those unchecked. So if I were to go from this point to this point, should be 22 inches. And then this one should be 34. So that's basically my paper size is what it's showing me. Okay. And then there's some type of offset. So do we get the full, you know, 34 by 22 area plotted in there? No. This is something, you know, that NRCS that we just took off of their templates that they do. They're, you know, there's some type of offset that they put on theirs, and we just copied that and, you know, put that in there. I don't like to show that personally, just because it slows things down. And I know that, you know, as long as I'm within that dotted line, I know that, you know, it's set up correctly. So that's extents. The other one is, if I go to page setup manager, display. So this is just showing my entire display, and it looks all goofy. So this here is what you really want to look for. If this looks wrong, then you know whatever you got going on is definitely wrong. Layout. Okay, that looks legit. you know, nothing on here. If I click OK, close, then you'll notice, that doesn't look right. So you're going to have to move this thing over to where it needs to be. And the one thing about layout that I don't know that you can do is center the plot. Well, let me go to DWG to PDF. Yeah, I don't think you can do the center to plot on that. The other one is window. So window you can definitely use. I use this on a lot of like, you know, details and things. If I want to go to plot them, you can do window. If you just select your actual sheet, here's my window. Preview that. So it's going to give me my window now. And that's going to be to scale, because that, long as you didn't change anything in the actual the sheet itself, it's going to stay that same, you know, size. Should we be checking fit to paper? What happens if I select fit to paper?
Messes up the scale.
Yep. So your scale gets all out of whack on that. So you don't want to ever select fit to paper unless you're doing something that, you know, is not to scale. Like if you're just printing out a detail or something like that and you wanted to fit it to a 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17 tabloid, you can fit to paper. So extents. Is the one that you want to do, and it's D size sheet. I think I had D size sheet full B D 2234. So now this one here is just my extents. So now I've changed that to whatever I need it to be. Now, if you mess up something and something has already been set up, so this, you know, for example, this one, say this page setup has already been, you know, set up. And we're just going to go DWG to PDF. Extents. Go ahead, preview, make sure it looks okay. Everything looks good. Go ahead, click OK. Now I've saved that. So that's sheet 2. So I can close that. If I want to have that same exact setup, page setup as sheet 2, I can go into page setup manager, select sheet 2 and say set current. And click close. So if you set one up, you can just keep going right down the list if you want to. And actually someone, you know, showed me other ways to do this too, that you can import. Actually, you can do an import from a template. So if you had a specific template that, you know, wanted to import, so say, and it has to be from a DWT. So if we wanted to do an 8.5 by 11, and we wanted to import that into our drawing, you'll notice that now we have an 8.5 by 11 that's from our template. So that's just another way of importing an actual a drawing, you know, page setup. So you can do that from any one of our templates. If you deleted one, you can, you know, you can grab a layout from any one of our templates. So that kind of goes over everything regarding, well, I guess not, the plot options. So the default is all of these. I think sometimes the plot transparency might not be on there, but you want to have plot transparency and then plot paper space last. Now, the only time when you want to uncheck that, does anybody know when you want to uncheck that plot paper space last? It was in one of our trainings. So the only time you want to uncheck that is when you're doing an as-built. Okay. So when we do an as-built, and this is something that we're going to have to go over eventually. And I know it might be up to different area engineers that are going to require, different ways. But regarding, how we go about doing that, what we're doing, at least in our area that, my area engineer, we kind of agreed upon that we want to have basically, we want to have our as-built. We want to do it electronic, but we want to have our as-built on a signed copy. And you'll notice on the templates that there's a PDF approved design layer, and there's training that goes over this. But basically what happens is you do all your electronic red lines and then turn off all your layers. And then all you're doing is XREFing your PDF, signed PDF into this drawing, pasting it, and then that's the only time you do plot paper space last, because basically you want your actual PDF underneath all of your as-built statements. If that makes any sense. So there's a whole training on that, with the PDF and the signatures and things like that. And I did get a question. Someone said, I've often found that my plotting doesn't work if I had the plot transparency checked. I'm not sure why that might be the case. The one thing that you might want to check is when you're creating, it depends. So when you go to Page Setup Manager, or you go to publish this, make sure that you're going from DWG to PDF. If you select just Adobe PDF, I think it does not work that way, the transparency. So you have to make sure you're going from a DWG to a PDF, PC3. But try doing it that way and see if it works. If it still doesn't work, let me know, and maybe we can try to work through it together. And somebody asked about the link for the training for the as-built PDF process. Again, if you go to our, I know I refer back to this a lot because this is kind of our library of stuff. But if you go to the Civil 3D training tab, and if you go to creating Adobe signature and adding sign design into Civil 3D to create an as-built on the sign design, and I actually have a PDF and everything on that, and actual video going over that. So those trainings are on there. Same with the sheet set that I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over this process, but it's basically the same thing. I did training on this. So again, look at those trainings, and if you have any questions, let me know. So now, if I want to plot all of this information, once I've set up all my pages, I can go in here, and this is how I do it. Some people might do it a little bit differently, and I'm not saying this is the only way to do it or the right way to do it. It's just a way to do it. If you go to publish, now granted, I have two drawings open too, keep in mind. So we have a drawing, actually, yeah. Let me hit cancel on this. I'm just going to close this drawing. Well, actually, let me cancel this. I'm going to close the bigger drawing. Just so it won't take as long. So now it's just drawing 2. I can publish this. So unsaved drawing index, unsaved drawing sheet 1. So it has index and sheet 1. Sheet list, we're not doing anything with a sheet list. Publish 2. We can publish it right to a plotter, but I can just tell you that it will probably give you, some problems. It's recommended just to go to PDF, and my preset is just DWG to PDF. The model, that's basically model, so you don't want to publish that. You just want to publish your sheets. So go ahead and you can hit the delete key on that. And it'll give you, if you select it, it'll give you what it's saying on that selected sheet. So it's saying it's drawing 2, it's index. We're going to DWG to PDF, 22 by 34, plot scale 1:1. That is very important. If this is anything different, then it's not going to be correct in the scale. And another thing I'm going to show you too, after we get done on some of these, making sure that we don't go beyond our title block. Page setup detail, that's basically override and output device because it's set up to, do plot to a plotter. That's my original setup, but we're overriding it from a DWG to a PDF. Number of copies, you can print how many as you want. Publish in background, that just means that you can continue on doing what you're doing and it'll publish in the background. A plot stamp. Some folks do use a plot stamp. If you select that, you can put this wherever you want on the drawing. You can create a file of all your plot stamps. You can do a drawing name, device name, date and time, and that will go underneath your drawing. It won't affect any of your scaling either. But if there's something that you want to show so you know exactly where that drawing's located, or the reviewer wants to know where that drawing's located, you can most certainly do a plot stamp. Precision, I've never used this. I've just always left this alone. Not even sure what it's about, so maybe it could be, I'm not sure. Publish options, this just goes into some different options for PDFs of what it's prompting you for, multi-sheet file, what the actual quality is. I kind of leave everything defaulted on this. And then hit the publish key or publish button. Then it's going to say, hey, where do you want to put this? Do you want to save the current list of sheets? I never do that either. I'm not sure what that refers to. I think it just refers to if you ever want to come back and print that exact style, you can load a sheet list. But I just always click no. And then you'll notice that there's like a little plotter down here in the bottom that it's saying publish job in process. So currently it's publishing the job that we've done. And then once it's done, it'll come up saying that it's, it's been completed. And it doesn't take that long. It's fairly quick. So this is just the steps that I went through on the plotting, just a step-by-step, where to save it. And now we'll go over to sheet set. So it's saying 2 of 2. And it will come up saying that it's done. So you'll see here that it's done. If there is something that has occurred, you can select this blue window bubble balloon, I guess, and it'll give you any type of warnings in here on that. So now we can go into that folder where it was located. So now you'll notice everything should pop up. Everything comes up. Now, I don't know if people know anything about, you know, any of the actual layers associated with this, but the one nice thing about Civil 3D and making it into a PDF, if you select this little guy here, layers, you can actually turn off specific layers if you want to. Blocks, text, you know, your title block, if you want to take that off, you know, whatever you want to take off, you can take off and, you know, show whatever you want. So it's a nice little function if you wanted to, you know, plot this, you know, print it out and show certain things to folks, instead of actually, you know, if you had, I don't know, for example, if you had 3 different options for somebody and you had 3 different layers that you put those options on, instead of, you know, creating 3 different PDFs, you can create one PDF and then you can just turn those options off and on and then plot those out that way. And then that way, you know, you don't have to create a new PDF for each one of those. So that's a nice little function that, you know, the PDF Adobe has. All right, so sheet sets. The sheet set manager basically, it organizes, displays, and manages sheet sets in the name of collection of drawing sheets. Each sheet in a sheet set, say that 5 times fast, is a layout in a drawing DWG file. It's under the Home tab, under Palettes, and under Sheet Set Manager. Or you can just type in the command line sheet set. Basically, once you do the sheet set, there'll become a wizard that comes through here. And I'll go through this. I'm not going to go through each individual one of these, but this just kind of gives you an idea of what to do. I'll go through what we'll do on ours. And then once you create it, so this is what you're going to do, create a new sheet set, existing drawing. We're going to, you know, name the sheet set to whatever we want. We're going to, basically this DST file, you want to put in your working folder. And then that way, if for whatever reason the reviewer, if they needed to, you know, publish this, they can, you know, publish that, you know, going through the sheet set manager. Sheet set properties. This basically just goes over what has been set up, kind of like your plot, your published properties, you know, what size it is and things like that. I usually use it as leave the default, and then you're just going to choose the layouts. Browse to your drawing, and in this case, we'll browse to our drawing that we've created. We'll actually have to save it first, and then we'll browse to it, and then we'll, you know, create a sheet set. Then once we create that sheet set, we're going to import each layout as a sheet. And then we have to browse for that specific drawing that we just created. So in this case, it was called Sheet Sets DWG. Here's the layout for each one, index in sheet 1. And then it puts it into the actual set. Import the checked ones that you have. And then now you can rename and renumber. So you can call it sheet 1 index. If you check this option for sheet title, it's going to put that sheet title down at the bottom where our titles are. And I'll show you that. So you'll see with the sheet title, whatever that sheet title is, it's going to put it down here. And then that's where, Sam, it will go. So that's what's referring to the sheet title. So those X's, it'll go into that actual location on the title block. And then we'll go over real quick, inserting the sheet list table. And then it'll actually show your sheet number and your sheet title. And you don't have to print, you know, do that all by hand. So let's go through that real fast. So in this case, I have to save my drawing. And I'll continue to save it in the same place. So now I'm ready to go ahead and publish this and plot. So here's, you can go to Home tab. So here's all your different palettes, your drop down. I have it already on in my workspace, but it's like a little plotter roll. Go ahead and click New Sheet Set. It's an existing drawing because we saved this drawing. It's under, we called it templates. Hit Next. You can call this whatever you want. We can call it, you know, template. You can name it whatever you want. Where do you want to save this? It'll default to that folder where you have it. Most of the time, or I take that back. Most recent folder that you opened up, it'll default to. So just make sure that you're in the correct file location. So in this case, it was under CAD training, Civil 3D, 2020 templates. Everyone else's case, you're going to be in your working folder. Click Open. Don't have to worry about the sheet set properties. Go to Browse. And then this is where you have to browse again into your drawing. Click OK, and you'll notice it has everything checked. I want to import the index in the sheet 1. So that's what index in sheet 1 is. Click Next. So here's the templates 1, index 2, sheet 1. Click Finish. And you'll notice now I have these sheet sets. I mean, as I'm selecting over top of them, this is what it's showing what this is going to look like. Sheet size, who it was made by, or who it was developed by, where it's located. Now, what you want to do, if you want to go to rename and renumber, it'll bring up another sheet here. And sheet number 1, say I didn't want to call this index. Say I wanted to call it, I don't know, index, I don't know, first page, whatever. Layout name, you can keep the same, whatever you want. But you'll notice, we'll call this profile. And you'll notice I didn't do the sheet title in there. I should have put the sheet title. So you want to put the sheet title in there. Oh, close. And you can't have any of the hyphens in there. I think you can put dashes, but not hyphens. So sheet title, index first page, next. So if you notice down here, as I had the sheet title, I'm renaming my layout to match that. If I don't have that checked, it won't change my layout. It'll keep it as index and sheet 1, but I've already changed them. So that's why it's already changed the layout name. Click OK, and you'll notice index, well, can't even spell. Sorry. So now you have index first page, profile cross section second page. So that's how it brought these in, and you can adjust them that way. So you can, rename all your stuff right through the sheet set manager. So that's all, nice, and that flows good. It's not too bad to do. But
Dan,
yes,
I have a question. This is Sam again. Can you make this sheet set at any point of the design, or do you have to wait till everything's ready and done and you're ready to publish it to do this?
Nope, you can make it as much as you can, because as you're doing it, you can import, you can create anything, but you can import a layout as a sheet. So if you have a specific layout and, I don't know if you added another one in here. So if you added another one in here, you can just select that one and then import that specific one that you checked. So for example, to make it go fast. So if I go to layouts and say I want to just drag and drop this miscellaneous details in here real quick in our current drawing. So now I have miscellaneous details in here as one of my layouts. Make sure we save it. Go back into here, import layout as sheet, browse for your drawings, templates, and now you'll notice it automatically checks it because it knows it's not on here. So I can import that checked one. And now you'll notice my miscellaneous details on here. If I need to rename and renumber it, I can call this sheet 3, miscellaneous details, click OK. And now you'll notice miscellaneous details. So you can do it at any point of time, during your, during your actual creation of your design. So
wait a minute. So, wait a minute. You're teaching an old dog new tricks. I can go into the index and modify that if I need to add something or subtract something or modify something. And at this point, I can access these drawings, or are they related to each other?
Yes.
My actual working drawing and the sheet set.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it's automatic. You just save it and it goes right into the sheet set.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
so
okay.
Yeah. So basically, what you have here, and that's a great question. So, for example, if I were to, I don't know, delete that out, and if I go ahead and hit, save. Your question is, okay, here's my index of my first page. See how it updates it? It took that out. You can see that it took that out. So it updates it, on the fly, if you will, if that's what you were asking.
Yeah, that's pretty much. But on our small, when we do waterways or troughs, things like that, they're like 3 sheets. I'm almost tempted to just go in and double click on the hashtags and make the change.
Well,
and going through this whole sheet. What are the benefits of a sheet set?
Well, I'm going to show you. So basically, the one nice thing, did you see what happened automatically on this? So it put my names of those sheet sets automatically into, well, it didn't do it on this one because it doesn't have a thing, but whatever this name is, it's going to pop it into those hashtags automatically. The other nice thing is inserting your actual table. So you can come down in here where the little plotter is. And then I think it's the plotter. I thought it was. No. On templates, right click, insert sheet list table, and you'll come up with a default. And you can do Nrcs center, Nrcs table. There's a couple different styles. I believe I go over, I think I just say standard on that, but I might say NRCS 1 center. But we'll use that one for now. But you can change it. So the data type, you can say sheet number, heading text, sheet number. You can add and remove these however you want to do it. You can move them up, move them down. So this is the columns. This is what the actual title is going to be. Click OK. So now it says, okay, sheet number 1, index first page. Sheet number 2, profile cross sections. 3, miscellaneous details. So anytime I change any of this now, so if I were to go in here and say rename and renumber, I don't know, we'll just call it index now. You'll notice on this, and why it doesn't do it, you would think it would regen it, but it doesn't. It'll regen it on here, but it won't regen it on your sheet list table. You'll have to reinsert that sheet list table. That's the only thing that I've seen. If somebody has another way of doing it or knowing a different way of doing it, please let me know, because I haven't found anything that updates that. I thought it would update it automatically. But that's the benefit, Sam, is that you can do it this way, that everything's entered it's automated. Your index, you don't have to go through each one and double click. If you had 12 pages, you can create, your sheet set based off of those 12 pages, and it does it automatically. You don't have to go into each individual one. You're right. If you only have a couple pages, is it worth it? I don't know. But the other benefit, to get back to where I was going with from original, is for plotting purposes. So when we go to publish this, I can publish this as long as I'm hovered over templates. I can publish each individual one if I'm, got those selected. But long as I have templates selected, I can go to publish PDF. And then I can just go into here again. And it's, already in the process of publishing it. So it knows each one of these sheets is loaded up the way they are, and it's publishing it right now. You don't have to go through any other, I guess, steps as far as publishing. It's just a matter of going right from there and publishing. And you can do the same thing as far as plotting too. You can plot if you wanted to, publish to the plotter. I don't know, there's a couple other things, but the biggest thing is just publishing to PDF.
So would it behoove us to set up a sheet set prior to design? Once we get our import our template, and just go ahead and set up? Or is this a function that could be incorporated into the template that we don't have to create?
Great question. I'm looking into sheet sets. I don't know them that much because I was kind of thrown in the pot, if you will, because it was something that Jaquay wanted on all of the headings. He wanted that title on there, and my quick research on it, that's what I came up with. So to answer your question, I'm sure there's definitely sheet sets that are out there that we could probably import. I know NRCS has like default sheet sets, and I haven't looked into those and what they're about. But as far as the interim, this was the down and dirty way, if you will, of trying to get what was required from what Jaquay wanted.
Yeah. It just seems to be making a simple thing very complicated, in my opinion, especially for these small projects. It's extremely intimidating. And of all the 24 people that are online here, I hope I'm not the only dummy with this, because it is intimidating.
Yeah.
Especially just to change a stinking title on a sheet, Right. I always plot from drawing to PDF anyway in the old-fashioned way.
Right.
Although it doesn't publish all the sheets at one time. I usually just do them all, and then I just, within Adobe, I just make it, I incorporate them into one document and I move on. But
Right.
which may be a few more extra steps, but I don't know, after looking at this, it seems to be about equal steps.
Yeah, and that's just it. So the main, like I said, the main reason behind this was just having an actual title underneath, for the title under each one of these. And I have seen drawings that come through where people just, like you said, double click in there, write in whatever you want. You know, if it's easier to do it that way, and long as you have a, you know, a table that explains that, that's fine. The problem that I see is if you do a drawing and you have 10 sheets and now the engineer says, okay, well, you need to add a sheet in there. It's a lot easier to do it through the sheet set manager, adding a sheet or deleting a sheet. I can move the sheet down and up, if you will. So I can adjust these to wherever I want within here. So I can adjust those, you know, sheet sets too, you know, moving them around if you want to, as far as plotting and publishing them. You know, not that that makes a difference, but, you know, you could add, you know, specific sheets in here if you wanted to also.
Wow, you could almost make a training just on this.
I know, and I did. I mean, I did do a quick one. You know, I say quick. It was you know, I don't know how long, but you know, I did do that training on the CAD user site. You know, talking about the sheet set manager, and you know, it, like I said, it goes over. It's that same PDF that I had up, but you know, it goes through all the step by steps that I went through just now in, you know, 15 minutes. I apologize that I moved faster because I know we're getting close on time. But that's basically, you know, the purpose behind it was to have something available for folks where they could insert a sheet set table and have some type of title associated with each page. That was the main purpose behind it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're doing an amazing job on this. I just need to find the time to go through all those recorded trainings, and that's a problem too when we got, you know, pressure on us to get things done, and to sit down and, you know, go through something for 2-3 hours. It just makes it.
No, and that's
puts the crunch on. But you're doing an outstanding job, Dan. You're the only one I know of in the state that can handle something like this.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, that's why I'm trying to come, you know, trying to have these smaller, you know, couple, you know, smaller training sessions that will help eliminate that, where you, like you said, you don't have to sit down and, you know, for 2 or 3 hours and listen to me talk about something. Because, you know, when we have this one-on-one webinar training, you know, even, you know, what Charlene was alluding to, that, you know, things happen in CAD, you know, to me, just as it does everyone else out there. So don't feel as though that, you know, I don't run into the same problems that you all run into, because I, you know, like I said, I run into the same problems too. But definitely points well taken. And, you know, with that being said, is there any questions specifically on today's training that anyone had, or, you know, any suggestions? Is there, you know, ways other folks do things that, you know, might help us, you know, in the future? I know I spoke to Sally from PA, and, you know, she's the one that, you know, explained a little bit about importing, you know, the templates for plotting, that, you know, you have different templates that you can bring in different plot pages, like the styles and things like that. So, you know, I know there are folks out there that, you know, have some useful information, and, you know, don't be bashful about sharing it, because like I said, you know, the more tools that we have in our toolbox, the better off and more efficient that we can be throughout the state. And, you know, that's the reason being of this entire, you know, this Maryland CAD users website, you know, we've put together. Even if you have questions in here, you know, we have a forum in here. And if you want to, you know, put something in this forum or, you have questions or anything, most certainly do it. And even on this, there's questions that you can, ask a question, and, other people might have that same question out there. And I know it was something that was, used regularly there in the beginning. And then it's just kind of fallen off, and I get it. Everybody's crunched on time and trying to get things done. And, so I totally get it. And we're trying to work our best to, get the information out there to everyone. And I'm trying to create, a library of all this information for folks where they can go to. And Sam, I agree with you 100% that, finding the time to do it is very intimidating, because we're always crunched for time to get things done. But we do have a lot of new folks out there that I know are not able to get on the federal system and have time that they can go through these trainings, in the meantime, while they're waiting, 2 months to get their link pass or what have you. So this is kind of information that, you want to start with and, go through these trainings and kind of get an idea of what you're up against and, what's going to be required from you as a technician in Maryland. And I guess the only other thing is, moving forward with trainings, I have trainings up on the website, and we'll just kind of go through them real quick. I'm looking for feedback in regards to, what are people looking to be trained on? I mean, I know that's a loaded question, but I was going to kind of just go in order here, kind of working with points would be my next training. But do you guys have something that's, a higher priority, that you'd like to see training on? Or, are you okay with going, working with points and then working with surfaces, then profiles and sample lines, and basically kind of going through the same process? But I wanted to hold it, via webinar so people can get a one-on-one and, ask questions, during the trainings. Is that something that you guys feel would be beneficial to everyone, or is there other topics that would be, better? I know there's a lot of folks that, have been asking about like corridors and grading surfaces and things like that. And that's something that's up and coming. But I don't want to, put that out yet to folks, especially the newer folks, because we have a lot of newer folks starting. So I didn't want to bombard the newer folks with that, I guess that more experienced CAD stuff. I was curious. I was more looking for like, what are the basic stuff? That's really kind of the stuff that I was looking towards. And if there's something out there that you guys, really need help on or whatever, just shoot me an email so I can kind of get that together, as far as the training. Because I'm going to try to start doing these like every, couple weeks. I'm going to try to get one out the end of, before the new year. They're being recorded, so that way, you are able to go back to them if you're not able to, get there. Anything that you want to, suggest, feel free to just, shoot me an email and we can go from there. If I see a lot of stuff on, one specific item, then maybe I'll concentrate on that. But, I was just thinking as far as, importing and working with points would be the next step as far as, I guess just the schedule, unless somebody really wants, another different training. I know paper space and model space, that's one that's out there that people, would like to have trainings on. I know the dimensioning was a big one, so that's why I kind of started out with that one. But if there's anything that, any engineers out here, reviewers, that you guys see, that, hey, this is just a constant battle and people are just not getting it, feel free to shoot me an email and I can try to put something together on that.
I seem to be the only one talking here. It's me again.
It's fine.
One of the things that I have run into, there seems to be some confusion with locking the viewports.
Okay.
And I have found a few during my reviewing process that the profiles aren't to scale.
Okay.
And I think that's something that would definitely be important, especially for the newbies out there, to understand how model space works with viewports.
Okay.
And maintaining, the proper scale ratio. Also in text size ratio.
Right.
I see a lot of that too, is that, you need a magnifying glass to see it.
Yep.
I'd like to add something to anybody that's new with CAD. There's a command, and there's a button. It's called match properties. And if you can get familiar with that command of matching properties, and you get very confused with setting up your text style and setting up any of your text dimensions, as far as whether they're readable or not, 0.10 or 0.12, get one that you can read, and then just match that property all the way around. That's going to save you a whole lot of time of trying to go back to basics again. Because like I said, we're always being rushed to get things done. And to me, that's very important.
No, and that's a great point. And regarding, one thing that, as you were talking, Sam, that I wanted to go over is what I see a lot. So right now, I name this drawing templates.dwg. That's within the file name, okay? If I do a new drawing, well, actually, let me just, let me do this real quick. And I'm going to get one that has a long file name. Oh, actually, know why? I got to open up the DWG. So I see a lot of people do this, and if you do it this way, you're fine. If you go to File, New, it'll actually create this drawing number 5. But if you actually go into here and say I wanted to open this up, this specific DWG, and you'll notice, okay, here's the name, and it's going outside of that. And I just wanted to publish this specific page. So I wanted to go to Page Setup Manager. Or actually, let me close this. Let me go to File, Plot, Publish. I'm only going to publish that specific index. So I can delete all these. And I'm going to publish this to a DWG or a PDF. And the only reason I'm saying this is because I've seen this, and I've seen people, this is what happens a lot, is the scale is off. And you think the scale is correct, but that's not the case. So what happens when we go to plot this, what it's going to do, and you'll notice on all the PDFs that, are out there, shown in here, let's see. So for example, if I opened up this PDF, and I should have probably just did it this way, but when I publish that, Does anybody see a problem with this? Do you think this would be to scale? So if I knew this was, this plan view 1 inch equals 10, 1 inch equals 10 inches, that's not going to be to scale because it's taken this extent and squished it down to fit this text inside of my extent. So it's taking that out. So it's shortened my entire page this much, however much this is, to fit it within the extents. So if you see any PDF and that title is outside of that title block, I can almost 100% guarantee that all your scales are incorrect. So with that being said, when you're in Civil 3D, save that. Make sure that when you save these, if I want to save this as drawing 5, whatever. If I put spaces, if I hit save, you'll see it stacks on top of each other. It'll actually print out that. I mean, it doesn't look like it, but it will. But it stacks over top of each other and stays within that. You can see if I select on that actual field, it's within that block. If you put underscores, it comes back to, like I was explaining earlier regarding the PDF files and putting underscores. If you put an underscore in there, what happens is that continues as one long line. So for anybody doing reviews or anybody, designing, make sure any text stays inside of that actual title block. Otherwise, it will not be to scale. And I'm hoping that, people that are reviewing these plans are taking out an engineer scale and double checking, the scales on these, because I've found it too many times where somebody says, okay, well, the horizontal scale is 20, and you go to their actual drawing and go into CAD, and the horizontal scale is 1 inch equals 40, but it says horizontal scale 1 inch equals 20 on their profile or cross section. So it's always good to actually get in there and see what, with an engineer's level, make sure that is actually the correct scale. I can't stress that enough. But just keep that in mind that, with these names, just make sure you put spaces in there. Otherwise, it's not going to be the correct one.
Why can't this be taken care of in the script file for that?
What, like the actual underscore?
No, just, why can't it be, that is the file name. Why can't you change the script for where that is placed within this drawing to automatically have spaces in it, so it will automatically just do it?
Well, I'm not a computer programmer, but maybe there is.
No, I'm not either, but I'm sure there's a way you can modify the script for it.
I'm sure there is.
I wonder if National would know anything about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just know that if you come in here and just do a new drawing and you select from any one of the templates, you won't have to worry about it because it automatically goes to the next drawing name. And, it could be drawing number 4, drawing number 5. The problem is that I see is people when they actually do it and they put underscores in their drawing name. That's all I'm saying is that if you just eliminate putting, your file name is all one specific name. So like a John Doe Ag Waste, all one name, it's going to continue that. All I'm saying is that you should put spaces in that, just that way it doesn't go beyond that space. I don't know, Sam, if there's a way to do it, but the way that field is treated is as that field is treated as one entire, multi-line text. Now, maybe I could do 3 multi-line text, but then, you have to figure out, well, how much is going to fit in each one of those lines. So that's why I just doubled it up, and you just have to, fit in what you can.
Hey, Dan, this is Luke.
Yes.
Hey, I've had that problem before, and I don't know if it changed my scale or not, but I would just click on like that drawing name, and then I would change the text size and to make it fit in the box, and then I would plot it out. Would it still not be to scale then?
No, you're fine. So you could do that if you wanted to change that, to 0.10 to fix it. Absolutely.
Right.
Long as long as that's within that title block, because when you're plotting this out, again, when you go into your page setup manager, you're doing extents. So if those extents are outside of this, title block, then this scale gets all messed up. But no, you can definitely go in there and adjust that size.
Okay, thanks.
But you would have to go through each one of those fields to do so. In other words, that's my, that's 0.10. I believe you'd have to go through each one of these and change it, to 0.10 in there. It's not going to do it for every sheet. And then again, like, Sam said, the match function, match properties, if I were to select that, I don't think you could do it on different sheets. Yeah, you can't do it on different sheets, but that's another thing. I mean, you can, copy and paste it, whatever, but, I think the easiest way around it is that, you go through there and, just make sure that you put the text name with spaces, is the biggest thing, and try to keep it within that title block. And as reviewers, just make sure that, the name the name is within that title block. Otherwise, I think you're going to have scaling issues. Is there any other specific questions? I got some good comments in here, so I'll definitely take them in consideration in the chat. I know it sounds like a lot of people are wanting the grading tools, and even talking about designing specific projects, starting with a grass waterway and designing those, and that was something that was discussed during the engineers meeting, that trying to hold some type of trainings of that fashion. So that might be coming down the pike as far as something that we might put together for sure. Well, if that's nobody has any other questions, that's all I have for today. Sorry, I ran over a little bit on time, but I think there's a lot of good questions and good dialogue in this training, and hope folks got a lot out of it. And like I said, moving forward, I'm going to try to put one together next or 2 weeks from now, and maybe I'll try to focus on looking at the viewports, profiles, and viewports, and making a shorter one, Sam, on what you're talking about. And maybe doing something like that, and then maybe get into the points after that. So I'll kind of think about that and see what we come up with and go from there. Well, if there's no other questions, I hope everybody enjoys the holiday and stay safe, and I'll look forward to the next training. Thanks, everybody.